All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're taking a look at Amanda Nguyen's memoir, Saving Five. We've got excerpts straight from the book and a pretty in-depth review to guide us through, well, such a personal and powerful story.
It's more than just a memoir, though, isn't it? Nguyen brings up this idea of saving five, where even our smallest actions can impact, like, at least five other people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all about recognizing how connected we are and how much potential each of us has to, make things better.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? And Nguyen's own journey, how she became such a strong advocate for this idea, is pretty fascinating. Her memoir tackles these really tough topics, things like trauma, healing, empowerment.
And she approaches them from both a deeply personal perspective and also a really insightful look at, the systems we live in.
What I find so powerful is how she changes the way we see trauma. It's not just an individual thing, but a societal issue that needs a collective response. It's a profound shift in perspective. She's incredibly open and honest about how her own experience as a sexual assault survivor affected her emotionally. Even just reading about the bureaucratic hurdles she faced was hard.
Yeah. That rawness is what gives her message so much power. You can't ignore how urgent her mission is when you understand what she went through. Imagine finding out that your rape kit is going to be destroyed because of outdated laws.
Oh, wow.
It's that kind of injustice that fueled her fight.
The structure of the book is really interesting too. It goes back and forth between these really personal reflections and then zooms out to look at like the bigger systems she's trying to change.
Right.
It's like she's weaving together the personal and the societal parts of her story.
Yeah, and it's a really effective way to show how those two are inseparable. You can't talk about personal healing without acknowledging the systems that often fail to support survivors. And understanding stories like Nguyen's is so important for pushing for change in those systems.
Absolutely. And the way she writes is so easy to understand. Even when she's talking about complicated legal and political stuff, it never feels overwhelming.
She's got this talent for making those abstract ideas tangible, relatable, which is so important, especially for a topic as sensitive as this.
One thing that really surprised me, though, was her use of humor. I mean, it's not what you'd expect in a memoir dealing with such a heavy subject.
That's what makes her such a compelling writer and advocate. It's a reminder that even in those dark moments, there's still that human spark, that resilience. And humor can be the thing that helps us connect, find strength in shared experiences, and heal.
That idea of finding strength in shared experiences reminded me of what the review said about the chapter called Community and Connection, which focuses on Nguyen's Vietnamese heritage and how important communal support is for healing.
Right.
Did that stand out to you at all?
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that we don't heal alone. We need those support networks, those places where we feel seen and understood, where we can draw strength from people who've been through similar things.
The book also delves into some of the systemic issues with how sexual assault cases are handled, especially in the chapter Broken Systems. It was really eye-opening to see how those systems often fail survivors.
That chapter was really impactful for me, too. It exposes, like, the lack of closure so many survivors face. And Nguyen doesn't just talk about the problems. She offers solutions based on her own experiences navigating those systems, things like the mishandling of rape kits. That's where her advocacy work really comes into focus.
And what amazing work it is. She actually drafted the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill of Rights. It's incredible.
It really shows you what's possible when you channel your pain into meaningful action. It's a testament to her determination and her ability to turn tragedy into a force for change.
Can you tell us a bit more about the bill itself? The key things she fought for and the biggest obstacles she faced getting it passed.
One of the most crucial things about the bill was guaranteeing survivors the right to have their rape kits preserved. This prevents what happened to Nguyen from happening to others.
Right.
It's not just about providing evidence for potential legal action. It's also about giving survivors a sense of agency, control over their own bodies and their stories.
And that sense of control is so important, especially after experiencing something that takes that away from you.
Exactly. It also lays out a way to provide consistent care for survivors across the country. It's like acknowledging what survivors need and making sure they have access to support, through the whole process.
It's so inspiring to see how her own experience led to this huge change in the system.
Yeah.
It really shows you the power one person can have, right?
Absolutely. She didn't just write the bill,
Yeah.
She testified before Congress, fighting for it to be passed. It shows what we can achieve when we refuse to accept things as they are, when we use our own experiences to, make real change.
It's like she took that feeling of being powerless, which so many survivors feel, and turned it into this source of like strength and resilience.
And that's a message anyone who feels like they can't make a difference needs to hear. Nguyen's story is like a guide, a reminder that we can all create change, even when it seems impossible.
It's not always easy, though. The review mentioned some criticisms of the memoir, like how some parts felt repetitive.
Right. While repeating things can be a good way to emphasize a point, there were times where it kind of interrupted the flow of the story.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I think it's important to remember that this is a very personal story, and sometimes that repetition might reflect how trauma and healing can be cyclical, you know?
The review also mentioned that the book's scope is a bit limited. I mean, Nguyen touches on issues that affect a lot of different marginalized groups, but her story is mainly told from the perspective of, well, a young, educated woman of color.
Yeah, that's true. It's important to acknowledge that and recognize that other survivors, especially those from different backgrounds, may have very different experiences.
Right.
Nguyen's story is a valuable starting point for a much bigger conversation about how the system fails so many people who have experienced sexual violence.
And the review also suggested that the memoir's tone might be a little too optimistic sometimes. Considering how serious the topic is, I can understand that critique.
I get it. I really appreciate her hope and determination, but I think acknowledging the challenges that survivors still face might resonate more with some readers.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance,
Yeah.
showing hope while still recognizing the harsh realities a lot of survivors are dealing with.
Okay, so we've talked about Nguyen's story, how the book is structured, some key chapters, her advocacy work, and even some criticisms. What does it all mean, though? What are the bigger implications of Saving Five? What do you think she wants us to take away from it?
Well, one of the most important things about this memoir is how it centers survivors' voices. It challenges those narratives that, often prioritize the perpetrator instead of the survivor.
Right.
It's about taking back power and control.
That really resonated with me. It's like she's saying, this is my story, and I'm going to tell it my way.
Exactly. And by doing that, she creates a roadmap for other people going through similar things, whether they're activists, policymakers, or allies. It reminds us that change is possible, even when it seems like there are huge obstacles.
And it's not just about changing laws, right? It's about changing the whole culture, how we talk about and react to sexual violence.
Absolutely. It's about creating a culture of empathy, support, and accountability. It's about creating safe spaces where survivors feel heard and believed.
And a big part of that is recognizing intersectionality. In Nguyen's background as a Vietnamese American woman, it shapes her understanding of how race, gender, and class all intersect to create experiences of oppression.
Yeah, that's so important. Her focus on inclusive advocacy ensures that her efforts reflect the needs of all survivors, no matter who they are. It's about seeing the systemic factors that contribute to violence and working to dismantle those systems.
It's clear that Saving Five is much more than just a personal story. It's a call to action. It's an invitation to join a movement for change.
For sure. And it all circles back to that idea of saving five, the idea that each of us has the power to make a difference, no matter how small it seems.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected and understanding that our choices can have a ripple effect and create a more just world.
Like a chain reaction of compassion and action. So what about you? What resonates most with you about this Saving Five idea and its potential to create real, tangible change?
It's empowering. It takes away that feeling of being overwhelmed by the world's problems. You don't have to solve everything yourself. You can focus on making a positive impact in your own space, in your own community, and trust that those ripples will reach further than you think.
Yeah, it's so easy to feel bogged down by all the problems in the world. But in Nguyen's story and this whole Saving Five concept, it really changes how you see things. It's like a way to combat that feeling of helplessness. It makes it something you can actually grasp, something we can all understand. You don't have to fix everything at once. Just focus on making things better in your own little world.
I love that. It reminds me of something Nguyen said in the book about not needing to be a superhero to make a difference. It's those small things you do consistently, those everyday choices that show what you believe in, that really add up.
Right.
It's those that build a better world.
And change doesn't happen instantly. It's a journey. There will be bumps in the road for sure. But we have to, like Nguyen, keep that resilience, that belief that things can change, even when it feels like we're not getting anywhere.
It makes you think about all the people throughout history who fought for what they believed in. Those who dedicated their lives to making the world a better place. They didn't change things overnight. It took years, decades even, of Nonstop effort, total commitment, and a belief in working together. That's where having a community really matters.
Hmm.
Surrounding yourself with people who get it, who share your passion and vision, it can make all the difference. It gives you that support system, that sense of solidarity that keeps you going when things get tough.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We need each other. We need those spaces where we can talk about our struggles and our victories, where we can lift each other up and inspire each other to keep fighting.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into Saving Five, I think it's good to take a second and think about what really hit home for you. What are you taking away from Nguyen's story and this whole Saving Five idea? What's one small thing you can do, starting today, to create that ripple effect of positive change?
Yeah, that's a question worth thinking about. As you think about your own saving five moments, remember that even the smallest acts of kindness, the smallest gestures of support, can have a huge impact on someone's life.
Don't underestimate the power you have to make a difference. Embrace it, use it wisely, and watch how the world changes, one small step at a time.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to come up for air from our deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey through Saving Five. I hope you found it as thought-provoking and inspiring as we did.
Me too. It's a good reminder that we all have a part to play in making the world better. And even the littlest things we do can have a big impact.
So go out there, find your Saving Five, and make a difference. Until next time.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep making those ripples of positive change.